I showed up to my own company's Christmas party, and my manager looked me in the eye and said, "Sorry, I think you have the wrong department." The worst part? He wasn't joking, and for a couple of seconds, the room believed him. It was one of those over-decorated hotel conference rooms that tries too hard to be festive. Fake snow in the corners, a tree that looked rented, a DJ in a Santa hat pretending he wasn't miserable. The kind of place where everyone is just drunk enough to forget they still have to work together on Monday. I was standing just inside the doorway, holding my coat over my arm, gift bag in my hand, waiting for the moment when someone would spot me and wave. You know that tiny, stupid hope that at least one person will be actually glad you came? I was hanging everything on that. No one looked up. The entire back wall was our department banner, printed in the same corporate blue I'd been staring at on my laptop for a year. Customer insights and analytics, turning data into decisions. I'd written that tagline myself in a brainstorming call Derek had later taken credit for. I could see him now, near the bar, laughing with Ichar like they'd all been friends forever. I cleared my throat, adjusted my glasses, and started walking in. I recognized faces from Teams calls. The girl who always muted too late. The guy whose dog barked during stand-ups. The analyst who wore the same hoodie every day. In person, they looked the same, just louder. A couple of them glanced at me with that vague, scanning look people give strangers they're deciding whether to ignore. Their eyes slid over my face, down to my badge, back up, then away. No flicker of recognition. Nothing. I told myself it was the lighting. I told myself they just hadn't placed me yet. I told myself a lot of things in those first 30 seconds. Evan? I heard my name behind me and felt a wave of relief, like stepping into warm air from the cold. I turned. Derek, my manager, was walking up with a drink in his hand, and that corporate smile he used in quarterly town halls. White shirt, Christmas tie with tiny reindeer, that stupid confidence you can't fake. "Hey," I said, letting out a breath I didn't realize I'd been holding. "Yeah, it's me." Traffic was... He cut me off with a short laugh, like I'd told a joke. "Sorry, man," he said, a little too loud. "I think you got the wrong room. This is the Insights holiday party." Conversations around us didn't stop completely, but I felt a shift. A subtle drop in volume. A couple of nearby heads turned toward us. I blinked. "What?" He tilted his head like he was trying to be gentle about something. "What team are you with?" he asked, slow and patronizing, like the answer wasn't obvious. "Customer Insights," I replied. "Your team?" It came out flatter than I meant it to. The word "your" stuck to my tongue. For a second his eyes did something strange, like a flicker of real recognition, then it was gone, buried under another chuckle. "Oh," he said, drawing it out. Right. He clinked the ice in his glass and glanced at the cluster of people watching us. "Sorry, You weren't on the list at the door, so I figured..." I followed his gaze back to the registration table. There was a printed sheet with names on it, highlighted in yellow. The woman from HR sitting there was still holding a pen, watching us like this was better than whatever the DJ was playing. "I RSVP'd," I said. "Last week. You sent the invite." "Did I?" he asked, eyebrows raised like it was all a big misunderstanding we'd laugh about in the break room later. "You put it in the team chat," I said. "You tagged me." I could hear my own voice tightening and hated it. I don't like scenes. I'm the guy who apologizes when someone bumps into me. The idea of being loud in public makes my skin crawl, but there I was, standing in the doorway, everyone half listening, like a car crash in slow motion. Behind Derek, two of the analysts I'd worked with directly were whispering to each other. One of them, Mark, frowned and squinted at me like he was trying to match my face to a blurry photo. "Is that..." I heard him murmur, and then he looked away when I accidentally met his eyes. "You know what?" Derek said finally with a shrug. "It's fine. You're here now." He stepped aside and gestured into the room like he was doing me a favor. "Grab a drink. Mingle. We'll figure out the RSVP thing later." There was something about the way he said, "You're here now," like I'd crashed a private party, like my presence was a variable he hadn't accounted for. I swallowed. "Okay," I said. There wasn't much else that didn't sound petty. I walked past him, forcing my legs to move at a normal speed. Not too fast, not too slow. I could feel eyes on my back, that sticky, uncomfortable attention that pretends to be casual. Someone laughed at a joke on the other side of the room, louder than necessary. The DJ turned up Mariah Carey, and the fake snow machine started spitting foam near the tree. At the bar, I set my coat over the back of a chair and put the gift bag on the table. White paper, silver ribbon, a stupid mug with "World's Okayest Analyst" printed on it. It had seemed funny when I ordered it. Now it just looked like a prop from the wrong play. "What can I get you?" the bartender asked. "Just water," I said. My mouth felt dry. I didn't trust my hands with anything that could spill. While he filled the glass, I glanced at the screens on the far wall. Someone from comms had set up a slideshow. Photos from our year in review, team building day, office renovations, screenshot of some dashboard, then a slide of Project Aurora, launch success. I stopped breathing for a second. The slide showed the home page of the Aurora dashboard, my layout, my color choices, my labeling, I'd spent 3 straight weekends configuring that thing before launch, because Derek had promised me, "If this lands, your name's going to be everywhere, man." Below the screenshot was a caption, "Aurora Dashboard, led by Derek Walsh." No mention of me. Not even team, just him. The bartender set the glass down a little too hard. "You good?" "Yeah," I said automatically. "Thanks." I took a sip and turned away from the screens, leaning on the bar like I was just tired, like none of this was new. The truth is, I'd only been in the office twice since I was hired. I started during the pandemic. My interviews were on Zoom. My onboarding was a PDF and a couriered laptop. For the last 11 months, my world had been a 13-inch screen, a Slack sidebar, and Derek's face in a tiny box 3 times a week. "Remote is the future," he'd said when I signed the offer. "We're pioneers here. Just focus on output. I'll handle visibility." So I did. I shipped dashboards. I cleaned horrifying spreadsheets. I built models no one asked for but everyone used. I covered for people on sick days and weekends because you're good with the data, Evan, and you don't have kids yet, right? The jokes always came with a wink. The credit never did. I told myself it didn't matter. I told myself it would catch up eventually. People see who does the real work, I thought. They have to. Standing in that room, watching my work scroll past my eyes with someone else's name under it, I felt something colder than anger. It was like realizing the floor you've been walking on for a year is actually ice. "Hey, you're Evan, right?" I turned. A woman was standing next to me with a plastic cup of wine. Brown hair, red sweater, badge clipped to her belt. I recognized her from call participants, one of the product managers. "Sarah?" her badge said. "Yeah," I said, trying to hide how relieved I was that someone knew my name without a question mark at the end. "Hi. We've, been on a few calls." "I thought so," she said. "We've used your reports a lot this quarter. The churn analysis, that was you, right?" There it was, that tiny spark of recognition I'd been waiting for. I felt my shoulders drop a little. "Yeah," I said. "That was me." She smiled, then glanced over my shoulder toward the entrance. "Weird about the RSVP thing," she added. "I was at the table when you came in. Your name wasn't on the sheet." "Yeah," I said lightly. "Guess someone forgot to hit save." She frowned. "It's printed from the master list. HR pulls it by department," she said. "But you're definitely in Insights. You're on all our distribution lists." I forced a laugh. "Maybe I'm a ghost?" She didn't laugh back. Her eyes flicked between me and Derek across the room. Derek was animated, talking to our director now, gesturing at the screens like they were his personal highlight reel. "That's odd," she said finally. "Anyway, I'm glad you made it." "Thanks," I replied. She drifted back toward her table, leaving me with my glass of water and a knot in my chest that wasn't going anywhere. On the far side of the room, someone tapped a microphone. The music cut. Our director, Linda, climbed onto the small stage next to the DJ. "All right, everyone," she called out. "Let's get started with some thank yous before we all get too tipsy to remember them tomorrow." Polite laughter. People shuffled closer to the stage. I stayed near the back, next to a fake poinsettia and a stack of extra chairs. Linda launched into the usual holiday speech. Tough year, proud of the team, looking forward to what we'd build together in Q1. I barely heard it. My eyes kept drifting back to that Aurora slide on the screen behind her. "And of course," she said, "I want to give a special shout out to the person who led our biggest internal launch this year, the Aurora dashboard. It's transformed how we look at customer behavior, and it's been a game changer for leadership." I felt my pulse in my ears. "Derek," she said, smiling, "come on up here." The room clapped. He walked up, taking his time like an actor hitting his mark. He shook her hand, waved at the crowd, gave an exaggerated little bow. "For real, though," Linda said into the mic, "Derek has been the backbone of this project. Late nights, endless iterations, wrangling data from 7 different sources." 11, I thought automatically. It was 11. I'd built the pipeline myself, and he's done it with such a great attitude. "We're lucky to have you. Round of applause, please." The clapping got louder. Someone whistled. Derek took the mic and did that humble brag thing people like him are born knowing how to do. "Honestly," he said, "this is a team win. I just had the privilege of steering the ship." His eyes flicked over the crowd and, for the briefest moment, landed on me at the back of the room. No nod, no mention, nothing. I don't know what I expected. My name in that sentence. I couldn't have done it without Evan. Even just a glance that said, "I see you. Thanks." Instead, he looked right through me like I was just part of the wall decor. I stood there, the sound of applause washing over me, and realized something simple and sharp. I had trusted him with my work, my reputation, my future in this place, and he had quietly erased me from the picture. I could feel the heat rising in my face, but on the surface, I didn't move. I just tightened my grip on the glass until the condensation ran down my fingers and onto the carpet. Somewhere in the back of my mind, a thought I didn't want to acknowledge yet clicked into place. Maybe that wrong department line wasn't a joke at all. I didn't sleep much that night. I kept replaying the moment Derek looked at me like I'd wandered into the wrong life. I kept seeing the slide show, the caption under my work, the way people clapped for him like he'd built every line of code with his bare hands. By morning, the embarrassment had settled into something else, something quieter and heavier. Not anger, not yet. More like the slow realization that the floor was tilted and had been for a long time. I logged on at 8:57 a.m., 3 minutes early, the way I always did. No messages, no "thanks for coming last night." No "sorry about the mix-up." Just silence like the party never happened, and I never stood in that doorway feeling like a stranger in my own team. Our daily stand-up started at 9 sharp, cameras on. Derek kicked it off with his usual cheerful tone. "Morning, team. Hope everyone recovered from last night." Recovered. Like we'd all been in on the same joke. People laughed. Mark said something about drinking too much eggnog. Someone else joked about stealing ornaments from the hotel tree. And then, like nothing had happened, Derek started running through blockers and updates. When it got to me, he didn't even pause. "Evan, I don't think I have anything for you today. If you're still wrapping up the Q4 churn work, just drop it in the shared folder." Still wrapping up. I'd finished that report days ago. I'd sent it to him directly, twice. "I uploaded it Thursday," I said. "Final version." "Oh," he blinked. Must have missed it. His tone was vague, dismissive. A shrug disguised as a sentence. I opened the shared folder to check. Empty. I checked the versioning history. My file wasn't there. He hadn't missed it. He'd removed it. Something cold settled in my chest. "That was the last major deliverable for Q4, he said, moving on without waiting for a response. So let's all stay flexible heading into the holiday week, all right? After the meeting ended, I sat staring at my screen, feeling the edges of reality fray. The missing report could have been a glitch. Sure, things disappear sometimes. But then, I opened my sent folder. The original file I'd emailed him on Thursday was gone. Not archived, not moved, just gone. I searched by file name. Nothing. Searched by keywords. Nothing. A normal person might have thought bug. A normal person might have shrugged and reattached the file. But I'd seen enough little things over the past few months, small delays in responses, tasks I delivered, that somehow came back to me without my name attached. Questions in meetings where someone else jumped in and answered using my notes. That suddenly those things weren't random anymore. They were a pattern. At 10:17 a.m., a message popped up on Teams from Sarah, the woman from the party. Sarah: Hey, weird question. Did you ever send that predictive model doc from last week? Derek said you hadn't started it yet, but I remember you sharing your screen with it during our call. I stared at the message until the words blurred. He said I hadn't started it. I had. I'd finished it. I'd reviewed it with him. He'd praised it. I had the draft saved. But I opened the directory. The entire folder was gone. Only a blank placeholder remained, created yesterday at 6:42 p.m., the same time I'd been walking into the Christmas party. My pulse jumped. That wasn't a glitch. You don't accidentally delete a folder, recreate it, and leave it empty. That was deliberate. Me: He said that? Sarah: Yeah. In the product sync this morning, honestly, it didn't sound right. That doc was basically done, wasn't it? I didn't answer right away, because suddenly everything clicked into a single ugly picture. Derek wasn't removing my work. He was removing me. But that was just the beginning. At 11:03 a.m., I got another message, this time from Mark, the whisperer from the party. Mark: Hey, quick thing. Weird question. How long have you been on the team again? That wasn't a weird question. That was a terrifying one. Me: Since January. Why? I watched the little typing bubble appear, disappear, appear again. Then, Mark, it's just... On the resource sheet Derek shared last week, your name wasn't listed under Insights. Thought it was a mistake, but now I'm not sure. I sat back in my chair, staring at the message like it was written in a language I wasn't supposed to understand. He'd removed my name from the team roster. Why? For what? I opened the resource sheet Mark referenced, one I hadn't looked at because Derek usually handled it. When I scrolled to the Insights section, my stomach dropped. There were 12 names. Mine wasn't one of them. It wasn't missing. It had never been there. Not anymore. Another message from Mark. Mark: Also, don't take this the wrong way, but Derek said you were support for our squad, not officially part of it. Thought that was BS, but I didn't know if maybe something changed. Something changed. Yeah, something had changed without telling me. Micro-catharsis hit me like a snapped cable. That night, I stopped being the hero. Because heroes forgive. Heroes assume misunderstandings. Heroes give people the benefit of the doubt. I'd been doing that all year. No more. At noon, I asked for a copy of my onboarding paperwork from HR. Simple request. Routine. Normal. 15 minutes later, I got a response. HR: Hi, Evan. We're looking into your profile, but we're not seeing you under the Insights department in our system. Can you confirm your current manager? My throat dried. My hands went cold. I typed slowly. Me: Derek Walsh. He's been my manager since I was hired. 3 dots. The longest 3 dots of my life. HR: Evan. That's not what our system shows. I lean back, heart steady now, not panicked, not confused, calm. Because somehow it was finally all making sense. Someone had moved me. Someone had erased me piece by piece. And someone had been preparing for a future where I didn't exist in his department at all. And that someone was my manager. It wasn't paranoia. It wasn't misunderstanding. It wasn't a glitch. This was deliberate, calculated, careful. And it meant only one thing. Derek wasn't trying to push me out of a party. He was trying to push me out of the company. And he almost had. almost, but he had no idea who he was dealing with now. I closed my laptop, exhaled once, slow and steady, and felt the shift inside me. Quiet, controlled, inevitable. He thought I was gone. I wasn't. I didn't go back to work that afternoon, not in the usual sense anyway. I sat at my kitchen table with my laptop open, coffee going cold, and a calm I wasn't expecting. The kind of calm that happens after you realize the fire is already burning. Your choice now is whether to let it spread or pull the building down yourself. There's a moment when shock turns into clarity. Mine came when I reopened my HR profile and saw that my current department field said unassigned, not insights, not any team, just floating in the system like an orphaned file. Someone had done that intentionally, someone with managerial access, and I only knew one person who fit that description. I clicked open the audit logs. Most employees don't know they exist. Most managers forget they exist. Derek definitely forgot. Every system change leaves a fingerprint, a timestamp, a user ID. At 9:12 p.m. 3 nights ago, while I was finalizing the predictive model Derek later claimed I hadn't started, someone changed my department code. User D. Walsh. There it was, a single line, clinical, dry, damning. I leaned back in my chair, heart steady now, no panic, no adrenaline, just reality settling into place, one quiet detail at a time. This wasn't sloppiness or miscommunication. This was premeditated. I opened the folder where I kept old versions of my dashboards. I'm obsessive with backups. People used to tease me about it. But each version has metadata burned into it. Creation date, edits, usernames. When I checked the Aurora files, I saw it clear as day. My original build, my code comments, my calculations. Then, 3 days before launch, a new version. Owner, D. Walsh. Editor, D. Walsh, comments removed. Author field overwritten. He'd cloned my work, stripped the metadata, and submitted his version as the final build. Once, maybe I could have excused. Twice, I could have rationalized. But this wasn't twice. This was a pattern stretching across 12 months like a stain. I opened my call recordings folder. Not everyone records meetings. I do. Auto record, saved locally. For accuracy, I always said. There it was. The Aurora handoff meeting. Derek's voice. Send me the final build, Evan. I'll polish it for the leadership deck. They'll want it streamlined. Streamlined. In corporate language, it meant sanitized of your involvement. Around 2 p.m., Sarah messaged again. Sarah, hey, random question. In the sync this morning, Derek also said you weren't involved with the Q3 retention project. But you basically carried that thing. I swallowed. My fingers hovered over the keyboard. Me. Do you still have the meeting notes from that project? Sarah. Yep. Why? Me. Can you send me the version history? She sent it. I opened it. Every time I left a comment, Derek replaced my name with his. One by one. Over months. The pattern wasn't subtle anymore. It was architectural. At 2:37 p.m., I made a new folder on my desktop and named it simply Truth. And then I started collecting all my original files, all version histories, audit logs, system, metadata, meeting recordings, email, headers, Slack, exports, timesheets, screenshots of missing folders. Every instance of erased credit, I wasn't angry. I wasn't shaking. I wasn't even surprised anymore. I was documenting. At 3:11 p.m., I requested a copy of my hiring paperwork from HR. They replied with HR. Evan, according to our records, your onboarding manager was... Actually not, Derek. It says temporary assignment. Do you know anything about that? Temporary assignment. That was impossible. He'd been my manager from day one. Unless he had never officially registered me under his team. Unless he wanted deniability if something ever went wrong. Unless he'd planned to take credit for my work while keeping me invisible. I stared at the message for a long time. Microhook formed on its own. I didn't know it yet, But that decision would cost him everything. At 4 p.m., I wrote a single-line email to HR. Me. Can we schedule a meeting tomorrow morning? I have documentation regarding potential misconduct. 5 minutes later, HR. Absolutely. 9 a.m. Works perfectly. HR never says absolutely, not unless they sense something real. I spent the next hours gathering, sorting, labeling. I didn't fabricate anything. I didn't embellish. I simply lined everything up in a way that made the truth unavoidable. At 7:22 p.m., I got an unexpected message from Mark. Mark, hey, I don't know exactly what's going on, but Derek's been weirdly protective about your work lately. He told us not to overwhelm you with tasks. Thought he was being considerate. Now, I'm not so sure. Me. Did he ever mention me being support and not the part of the team? Mark took a long time to respond. Mark. Yeah, a couple times. He said you were just helping out temporarily. Said you weren't core headcount. Said not to loop you into stuff because you were contract adjacent. Contract adjacent. I laughed. Actually laughed. I had a full-time offer letter. I had benefits. I had PTO. I had everything any other employee had, except a manager who acknowledged I existed. Mark messaged again. Mark, if there's something I should know, man, tell me. I don't like the feeling of this. I typed back slowly. Me, I'll tell you soon. Just give me until tomorrow, he replied with a thumbs up. At 9:03 p.m., I took a break, stood by my window and looked at the snow starting to fall across the parking lot. Quiet, clean, without footprints yet. My life didn't feel quiet, but it was clean. In a strange way, it was becoming cleaner by the hour. At 11:17 p.m., I finished assembling the full dossier. It was 64 pages long, nothing dramatic, nothing emotional, just facts lined up like dominoes waiting for the first nudge. At 11:42 p.m., I saved a final copy to a new flash drive and put it on my desk. And that's when the micro-catharsis hit. Sharp, steady, absolute. They thought I was gone. I wasn't. No shouting, no confrontation, no righteous meltdown. Just preparation, just truth. Just the last quiet night before the building collapses. Not on me, but on the man who designed it. Tomorrow wasn't going to be a fight. It was going to be an audit. And Derek had no idea the numbers weren't in his favor. I woke up before my alarm. No dread, no knot in my stomach, no running through imaginary conversations. Just a stillness I hadn't felt in months, maybe years, the kind of quiet that comes right before a storm breaks. But this time, I wasn't the one standing under it. I showered, dressed, made coffee. Not rushed, not anxious. Every movement deliberate. I didn't feel like the victim in this story anymore. I felt like someone walking into a room holding the truth, knowing it couldn't be argued with. At 8:52 a.m., I joined the HR meeting link. The window popped up with two faces, Maya, the HR rep, and Linda, our director. The same director who'd handed Derek a microphone at the party. Morning, Evan, Maya said, smiling like she already knew this wasn't a normal conversation. Thanks for meeting on short notice. Of course, I replied. Linda leaned forward. You said this was regarding potential misconduct. Yes, I said, calm as a still lake. And I brought documentation. I uploaded the dossier into the chat. A moment passed, then another, then a long silence as they scrolled. Audit logs, version histories, screenshots, email headers, Slack exports, meeting recordings, missing folder logs, identity metadata, project files with overwritten authorship, the HR database record where Derek had quietly reassigned me to unassigned, and the timestamps proving he did it. Linda's face shifted first. Shock, then confusion, then something heavier. Betrayal, maybe. Leaders don't like learning someone on their watch played God with the rules. Evan, she said slowly, this is substantial. Maya nodded, clicking through. Did you gather all this last night? I gathered the parts he left behind, I answered softly. He wasn't careful about covering his tracks. Another silence. Longer. When they finally spoke, They were using voices meant for emergencies. Can you stay online? Maya asked. We need to bring someone else into this call. Of course. 2 minutes later, legal joined, then compliance, then someone I'd never seen before with VP in her title. The tone of the meeting changed instantly. This wasn't a concern. This was a fire alarm. They asked questions. I answered plainly. No dramatics, no speculation, just facts. Everything I said had proof attached. At 9:31 a.m., Maya exhaled and said, Evan, thank you. We're going to ask you to remain offline for the rest of the day while we escalate this. I understand. And just to be clear, she added, leaning closer to the camera, you did nothing wrong. That landed deeper than I expected. The meeting ended. At 10:03 a.m., the real show started. Our team stand-up usually happens at 9. I wasn't there. HR had already disabled my calendar access temporarily. But I heard what happened anyway because Mark recorded the call. At 10:07 a.m., right as Derek started reviewing tasks for the week, 3 unfamiliar faces joined the meeting. HR, compliance, legal. It took 10 seconds for Derek to freeze. Derek, Maya said, we need to speak with you privately. Now. Sure, he laughed nervously. Can it wait until... No, she said, right now. The room went silent. Cameras turned rigid. No one blinked. They told him to stay on the call. Then they told everyone else to remain as witnesses. His face went pale. Immediately, Maya shared her screen, my dossier, the audit logs, the overwritten authorship, the removed department assignment, the deleted files, the fabricated comments, all stamped with his user ID. Derek, she said, voice surgical, can you explain why you removed your employee from your department in the HR system? He stuttered. He denied. He claimed it must be a glitch. Then they showed him the timestamp. Then the user ID. Then the version history. His hands shook. This is being escalated to a disciplinary review, compliance said. Effective immediately. Please remove yourself from the meeting. He tried to speak again, but they muted him. Let that sink in. They muted him on his own team's call. Then the icon next to his name turned red. Derek Walsh has been removed from this meeting. Chaos erupted for a moment. Surprised gas, whispered, holy shit. A camera accidentally dropped on someone's keyboard. But then the meeting ended without explanation. I didn't see it live. But Mark sent me the recording with a single message. Mark, you weren't the problem. He was. At 11:22 a.m., my phone buzzed. Unknown number. I let it ring. And ring. And ring. Eventually it stopped. Then an email came through. From Derek. Subject. Evan, please, call me. We can clear this up. I deleted it. Then another message. Derek, this is a misunderstanding. We should talk before this gets blown out of proportion. I blocked him. 1 minute later, an email from HR. HR. Evan, we'd like to discuss next steps with you this afternoon. 2 p.m. works? At 2 p.m., I joined the new meeting. Linda smiled. Genuinely, not the corporate kind. Evan, she said, I want to personally apologize. What happened to you was unacceptable. Maya nodded beside her. We've completed our initial review. Derek has been placed on immediate suspension pending termination. Suspension pending termination. That phrase tasted like justice. Linda continued. We've reviewed your contributions to the Aurora project and several others. It's clear you were the primary driver behind multiple major wins this year. Effective today, we'd like to formally reassign you to Insights as senior analyst with a compensation adjustment. For the first time in days, I had trouble speaking. Thank you, I managed. You earned this, she said. And you did it the right way. I closed my laptop after the meeting and sat in silence for a long, steady minute. Not shaky, not tearful, not euphoric, just quiet. The kind of quiet that comes after you finally stop carrying someone else's weight. At 5:41 p.m., Mark messaged me again. Mark, dude. They locked Derek out of the building. Security escort. Whole floor saw it. I stared at the screen. A year ago, I would have felt guilty. 6 months ago, I would have questioned whether I'd gone too far. 3 months ago, I would have tried to give him the benefit of the doubt. Now, I type back, me. People show who they are, eventually. He replied with a single line. Mark, you deserved better. For once, I believed that. That evening, snow kept falling outside my window. Everything looked soft, untouched, clean. I made dinner slowly, played music I liked, didn't think about work, didn't think about the party, didn't think about Derek. I wasn't holding anger anymore. I wasn't holding fear. I wasn't holding anything. For the first time all year, everything I carried belonged to me. The truth, my work, my name, my place, my peace. People think revenge is loud, messy, explosive, but sometimes revenge is just this: a quiet apartment, a warm meal, a job that finally sees you, and the knowledge that the person who tried to erase you has to live with the fact that he failed. Completely. Permanently. Effortlessly. That night, as I turned off the lights and walked down the hall toward my room, I felt it settle in me fully. I didn't just survive what he did. I outlived it, and he never saw me coming.